Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something pretty wild, a theological study that honestly flips history on its head. So let's unpack this idea. What if the basic stories, the core myths of major world religions, what if they all came from one non-human source? And that source was, well, basically lying.
That's exactly what we're digging into. We're exploring this very specific study that says human history. It's been massively shaped by fallen angels interfering constantly, and is presented as a deliberate violation of, well, the sources actually call it a prime directive.
Okay, a prime directive. And the context here is key, right? Especially for you listening. The source is saying these heavenly beings, angels, they've been around interacting with us since Eden. But it points to this major disconnect now. A lot of people today just don't buy the idea that humanity needs saving or that figures like Lucifer are actually, bad.
And what's really interesting is how the study frames the players. It insists angel-human hybrids and this whole agenda have been active since Adam. And here's the kicker, the really crucial distinction in this material. Demons. They are fallen angels themselves. According to these texts, they're the disembodied spirits of dead giants.
Whoa, hang on. Let's pause right there. The source is saying these giants, the Nephilim from Genesis 6, born from angels mixing with humans, when they died, their spirits became demons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they were hybrids, their spirits didn't fit, couldn't return to the creator or, well, anywhere else easily. So the claim is these are the roaming evil entities we call demons. It explains their drive for possession, They're seeking bodies, a connection back to the physical world. And this claim that the demonic threat is biological, essentially. That's the bedrock of this whole conflict.
Okay, so if we take that as the starting point, let's look at the original setup. The creation story, as interpreted here. Divine beings. The Elohim, technically from outside our dimension, made humanity. And then they put these ranks of angels on Earth to kind of manage things for us.
That's the picture painted, yes.
Yeah.
The Elohim plural, remember, with YHVH Jehovah, among them they set up this governance, which brings us right back to that prime directive. If you translate it from the theological language, it's basically a strict non-interference rule. Like in sci-fi, These angelic governors were not supposed to mess with human development beyond what the creator laid out.
They did. Almost right away. The source argues the whole reason we have so many different religions, so many gods, is that these angelic rulers started accepting human worship, broke the directive. They basically stole the spotlight from the actual creator.
And this failure, this systemic breakdown, wasn't ignored. It led to a divine judgment, recorded in what the source calls the Psalm 82 Council of the Gods. According to this reading, these angelic guardians, the Bene Ha-Elohim, sons of Jehovah, they had territories, right? Nations, cities, like it mentions in Daniel 10. But they completely failed. They didn't teach humanity about Jehovah.
That's a massive turning point in this narrative. They were supposed to be guides, but they set themselves up as local gods instead.
And the judgment was harsh. You will die like men. That ruling, the source says, stripped them of their immortality, their authority. It was a critical moment. The whole oversight structure just collapsed.
Okay, so that judgment happened, but the interference didn't stop there, did it? This is where it gets, well, even stranger. We need to talk about that specific group, the 200 Watcher Angels. They made a pact, right? To come down, mix with humanity, create hybrids, back in Enoch's time.
And the source is adamant. This ancient hybridization agenda, it never stopped. It's ongoing. They argue that things people report today, like ancient alien abductions, it's just a continuation. It's the same entities. And people often go along with it because of, well, maybe cognitive dissonance. They want to believe these beings are friendly helpers advancing our evolution.
Instead of seeing them as the same fallen group still pushing the Watchers' original plan.
Precisely.
And what happened right after the Watchers first interfered? It wasn't helpful knowledge they brought, was it? It was what the source calls a curriculum of destruction. The Book of Enoch apparently lists this forbidden knowledge, stuff that messed humanity up. What exactly did they teach?
Well, the list is disturbingly specific. Warfare. How to use herbs and plants to make drugs, and how to perform abortions. You notice it's not just random stuff. It feels strategic. Hitting society with war, the mind and spirit with drugs, and biology, population with abortion. It's like it was designed to make us self-destruct.
That groundwork really sets up the next big claim, that whole religions are built on these deceptive encounters. Let's get into those angel religions, the source details. Starting with Mormonism, which it calls the Pleiadian religion.
Yes, the source draws a very direct line. It claims the religion starts with the angel Moroni, who allegedly said he came from the Pleiades star cluster, a specific off-world origin. Moroni, of course, leads Joseph Smith to the golden plates. And then there's the theology itself, Jesus, appearing in the Americas after resurrection, and being equated with figures like Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan.
Right, blending him with existing figures. But why the focus on the Pleiades link? What's the significance there?
It's presented as evidence that the origin isn't divine in the traditional sense, nor even purely earthly. The source basically concludes Mormonism is a deception orchestrated by one of those original 70 fallen guardians, trying to create a counterfeit faith, mixing truth with pagan ideas, and a kind of cosmic backstory.
Okay. Now, moving to Islam, the focus shifts a bit, doesn't it? Less on where the angel came from, more on how the message was delivered.
Exactly. The study highlights that the revelation came only through an angel, supposedly Gabriel, not directly from Allah. And the argument is this angelic middleman makes the message vulnerable, allows for strategic errors. Its core tenets in this analysis seem designed to specifically refute Jewish covenants and, crucially, deny Jesus as the unique final path to salvation. It's framed as an angelic counter-narrative.
You see this pattern of revelation from above, but maybe not from the highest above. How does the source interpret Zoroastrianism's founding figure, Ahura Mazda?
Well, Zoroastrianism focuses on Ahura Mazda, creator, god of the sky. The source points out the name. Ahura means Lord. Mazda means wisdom. And the revelation, this wisdom, happened on a mountaintop. The study draws a direct parallel to Moses on Sinai. Similar setting, similar title, Lord of Wisdom, suggesting it mimics legitimate divine encounters, but with a different, likely fallen source.
Okay, let's shift to Buddhism. The founder, Siddhartha Gautama, the awakened one. The source connects his enlightenment back to Eden. That's provocative.
It is. Siddhartha means awakened one, or illuminated one. And the echo of Eden comes from where he achieved enlightenment. Meditating under a tree, right? The place linked to forbidden knowledge in Genesis. And crucially, the source claims the core philosophy reincarnation, the quest for nirvana, for bliss, was taught to him by the devas. It identifies these devas as shining ones, a lower rank of angelic beings.
Which leads to maybe one of the most unsettling claims in the material about altered states and, well, possession. Is the source really saying that seeking ultimate peace could be the biggest spiritual trap?
That's precisely the argument.
Yeah.
It asks, what's the goal of nirvana? According to the study, meditation aiming for nirvana, for emptiness, is dangerous. Why? Because it successfully detaches the mind and spirit from the body. It creates, in their terms, an empty vessel. And that vessel becomes open, vulnerable to possession by these devas, or remember the spirits of the dead giants. Them too. They're actively looking for a way back in.
And this vulnerability isn't just limited to deep meditation, according to the source.
No, exactly. It connects this same state of spiritual openness or susceptibility to what happens with certain drugs, specifically mentioning psychedelics, or through occult practices like astral travel, projection, remote viewing. The core idea is that these fallen entities promote anything that makes humans spiritually vacant and available for influence or direct occupation.
Let's pivot to a very specific entity. The source connects directly to the end times predictions, the cult of Apollo.
Right, Apollo. Greek god of prophecy, famous for the oracle at Delphi channeling his wisdom, and his spirit. It reportedly appeared as a serpent, another loaded image, isn't it? But the study makes a very stark, direct link. It connects this Apollo to Apollyon, the destroyer figure from the abyss in the book of Revelation. The source flat out suggests Apollo is Apollyon, possibly one of the original Watcher angels from Mount Hermon, and directly tied to the future Antichrist. It's positioning a specific fallen angel for a comeback role.
So ultimately, all these different paths, these different revelations, they all trace back to that first lie, the Luciferian gospel. Let's circle back to Eden.
Yes, Eden is the template. Lucifer, the created angel who covered God's throne. He tempts Eve to become awakened through the tree of knowledge. And when they eat, Adam and Eve do gain knowledge of good and bad, but crucially, they're now interpreting it outside of God's framework, his will. They become their own moral authority.
And that basic lie evolves into modern Luciferianism, where Lucifer is suddenly reframed as the hero.
Exactly. He's portrayed now as Prometheus the Lightbringer, the Lord of Wisdom, trying to save humanity from a supposedly evil Jehovah. It's described as a kind of ultimate reverse psychology.
But hang on, if the end goal is just for humans to become gods themselves, immortal, why the complex deception about Jehovah being evil? Why not just offer godhood straight up?
Because, according to the source, the promise of immortality isn't the core deception. The core deception is about authority. The lie is needed to get humanity to reject the Creator's moral framework first. The final goal is still that same offer made to Eve. Mankind can be autonomous, immortal, like God. That's the Luciferian gospel. And it's presented as the absolute opposite of the gospel of Jesus, where God became man to save Adam's race.
What's striking here is this picture of an ongoing war fought not just with, dramatic battles, but through subtle theological shifts, through ideas and teachings.
Yeah, and the source loops back to the Apostle Paul's warning that in later times people, even within the church, would start following teachings originating from men, or worse, from demons, doctrines of demons. This study is basically saying those angelic entities, they're still here, still alive and well, still wielding real power, influencing nations, regions, geopolitically.
But the source doesn't end on total despair, does it? It offers a conclusion about Lucifer's ultimate fate.
That's right. It concludes that Lucifer's rebellion, despite all this ongoing influence, has already been judged. His final defeat was determined and significantly accomplished here on Earth by mere humans, specifically through Jesus Christ.
Wow. That's quite a synthesis, weaving together theology, ancient history, myth, even contemporary phenomena. But the central claim from these sources is clear, isn't it? That so many diverse religious paths might actually trace back to deliberate angelic interference, a counter-gospel from beings who broke ranks.
And that really brings us back to the challenge this material throws down. The source finishes by quoting 1 John 4. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, end quote. It's presented as the essential tool for discernment in a world saturated with competing spiritual claims.
Test the spirits. That feels like the critical takeaway. So here's the final thought for you to wrestle with, based on everything we've unpacked. If we entertain the source's idea for a moment that these angelic entities are still influencing global power, influencing geography, what does that specific link they make between the spirit of Apollo, Apollyon the Destroyer, and the end of days? What might that suggest about the nature, maybe even the origin, of powerful leaders yet to come? Something to definitely think about.